Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about me and how we're unlocking data-driven growth here at the company that I'm with, and hopefully teach you a few things as well throughout. So first, just by way of background, I'm Domo's Chief Analytics Officer and our SVP of Customer Success. I've been at Domo for about 9 years. I've done a little bit of everything. I was interim CMO for a year. So if you're on the marketing side, I feel bad for you, as I did that for a year and said never again. If you're on the sales side of things, awesome. I'll never do that. So, but right now my current role is I oversee all of our post-sales activities at Domo. So that's consulting, CSM, support, all of those kinds of things. I put this QR code if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to stay connected and hear what you're doing within your world, and also share with you what I'm doing in mine. So today, wanted to talk about data-driven growth. Working at Domo is an analytics organization, and so my background is all in operations and analytics. And so I thought it would be helpful today to talk a little bit about how we've unlocked data-driven growth here at Domo, and also how you might be able to do the same within your organization. So we're going to do this by talking about 3 keys. The first key is data-driven decisions. Next key is automation and efficiency. And the last one that we're going to hit is predictive analytics and forecasting. So let's jump into it. Data-driven decisions. In my experience, data-driven decisions really come from 2 places. The first is data-driven culture. And the second one is effective org structures. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I have to tell you that these visualizations are apparently a younger, more attractive version of me. My team loves to use AI art generation to build my slides. And so I gave them free reign on this deck, and they've apparently created me in different formats throughout the slides. So you can hopefully get a little bit of chuckles as we're going through this. So yeah, let's dive into to this. All right, I've lost my cursor from an advancement perspective. Okay, I'm back here. Excellent. Okay, so for data-driven culture, in my experience, this is probably the biggest thing that you can do within your organization, is to create a data-driven culture. And how do you do that? Well, I think it's there's a number of different ways, and we'll talk through some of those ways. But really, it's starting with setting that expectation at an organization-wide level, that we are going to drive our organization through data, that we are going to have a culture that focuses on data and that understands the value of data and is going to leverage that data in order to be able to make the right decisions within the organization. Now, you can't always have all the data that you need to make those decisions, but you definitely can have a lot of that data. And in my experience, the more data that you have, the better the decisions you can make, and the better the decisions, the more success you're going to have within your organization. But first, I thought I would talk a little bit about the why. Why does this matter? Why are data-driven decisions important? And McKinsey did a study not that long ago where they asked organizations what was driving success within some of their digital transformation efforts. And I would put analytics and data-driven culture as a part of kind of digital transformation efforts. And so they found that anywhere up to 2.5%, you were likely to have up to 2.5% more success if you were to implement these kinds of solutions. Things like having digital tools, making those tools self-service, putting KPIs out there or targets out there for your organization. And so that's really where this matters, is like if you're driving within your organization this kind of data-driven culture, and you're providing data to your organization, they're definitely going to be able to have more success. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about some examples. So again, I shared Domo as a data visualization and a data management platform. And we found at Domo that it's not just about having your data, it's about also making that data accessible, and as reasonable and reliably as possible. And when we do that, we found that employees really take action based on that data. So, at Domo, we have over 1,000 employees that are logging into our instance of Domo every day. And we have massive amounts of data. I wrote down some notes here. We have over 8,200 dashboards with over 120,000 different cards. Now, we call cards, those are like charts, right? So we have over 120,000 different charts within our system. So just massive amounts of data that's been created, brought into the system, and that people are leveraging to make decisions every day. Now, you can imagine with over 120,000 different charts, it can be quite difficult to manage that and to find what you're looking for. And honestly, I found that was true. It looks like the video won't play. I found that to be true with us as well. And so I asked my team, can we build an easy way to navigate all of these different metrics and the most critical metrics? And so what we did is we set up a CAO page, right, a Chief Analytics Officer navigation page, where I can go in and at any given time, click into any of the departments within the organization and drill down. And each of these pages actually have a red, yellow, green type of approach to them. So a very simple chart that shows me red, yellow, green. And then I can click down into that specific chart type and see, into that red, yellow, green indicator, and then see a whole page or dashboard of different charts that will give me the reason why that area in the business might be red, yellow, or green. Again, it's an easy way for me if I'm sitting in the executive meetings that we have every week. It's easy to ask. I always say it's easy to ask a question and much harder to answer it. So I'll get all sorts of questions. I'm able to quickly navigate to, is this question a question that's tied to our competitors? Is it tied to, maybe our free offering? Maybe it's a finance question. Can navigate down and see quickly where we're looking from a red, yellow, green perspective, and then be able to dive into the reasons why that might be the case. Let's get past that one. The second area here that I wanted to talk about is effective org structures. And I found in my career that the way that you structure an organization is absolutely critical. It's almost as critical as actually having the data and making that data accessible. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about a couple of ways that we've structured our teams here and that our customers are structuring their teams as well, specifically their analytics teams or their data management teams. So a couple of different ways that I've seen. Really, there are three ways, but the two ways that I would recommend is either a centralized model or a hub and spoke model. So at Domo, we're employing both of these models. The centralized model we're employing for my internal analytics team. So I've got a team of analysts, data scientists, app developers, and they're in this centralized team. But we also use this hub and spoke model as well. And we do that really for additional capacity when we don't have capacity within our centralized team. And so really you can use either of these organizational structures within your company. You might be new and you haven't set up an analytics team or a data management practice. And so I would suggest that you consider which of these two structures might be the best for your organization based on what you're trying to accomplish. Let me go through a few advantages and to each of these models, benefits to each of these models that might be helpful in making helping you to make this decision. So the first is a centralized structure. So what I found is in having a centralized structure, you reduce friction between departments. There's not this kind of infighting. You're all a part of one team, so it allows you to have some neutrality there. The other thing is, if I am reporting to the CMO, it's likely that I'm going to help the CMO look good. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to get to the truth, arguably what matters more than making the CMO look good is getting to the right answer. And so, in the centralized structure, you have a neutral party that's not tied to the CMO, is not tied to the CRO, but instead is able to sit neutrally in the organization and be able to provide insight without worrying about keeping their job or keeping their boss happy, for example. The other thing I would say is that this allows us to create a cohesive data structure, meaning we can strategize and set and create a plan on where we want to get to from a data perspective and what our key initiatives are for the year, and then build a data strategy that supports that. The last one, obviously, is, in my experience, this kind of structure provides improved collaboration and coordination as well. Now, like I said, not the only way to do it. The other way that you can do it is have a distributed structure, or kind of a hub and spoke structure. And there are some benefits to this as well. I found that if you have people actually embedded within the organizations and you're this kind of decentralized structure, meaning your analysts or your data scientists actually are reporting into each of the departments, they're able to move at speed. And sometimes organizations won't have the patience to say, hey, I'm going to make this request and wait for this other department to provide me with this information. And so that's one thing. The other one I've seen is this department alignment, which is, if you're sitting in meetings with a marketing team, you're able to understand where they're trying to get to. You're getting a lot of context within that organization and those meetings. I've put a footnote here on this slide that you can get away with a centralized model if you have your folks sitting in on key meetings within that department. So it's just something to consider. So here, kind of talked about those three models. I would recommend a centralized or a hub and spoke model, and probably not a decentralized model in my experience. But you can see here on this matrix, if you're looking for something that maybe might be more enterprise-wide, you might want to go more to a centralized model. If you're looking for flexibility and speed, you might want to look more to a hub and spoke model for your analytics efforts. All right, second key. I'm gonna flip to my notes here so I don't get anything too far off of what I wanted to say here. Wanted to talk a little bit about automation and efficiency. I mean, all of us in our organizations, we're always trying to do more with less. And I think the way that we do that is through obviously driving efficiency, but also automating things within the organization. So want to talk a little bit about that. The two keys, I think, here to automation and efficiency. The first one is thinking at scale, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And the other one is data process and adaptability. So as far as thinking at scale, I found if you start with the end in mind, you often create a situation where not only are you going to get great results today, but you're also going to set yourself up for great results in the future. And so if you can think a little bit ahead as you're building out your projects, as you're starting your journey in, maybe a particular analytics solution or wherever you might be in your journey, if you could think, 12, 18, 24 months ahead, that oftentimes will help you not only to get the immediate need met, but also to take that immediate need and to be able to apply that in a way where you're not wasting time in the future by having to reset and redo. And then the second one is process and adaptability, which we'll talk about as well. So let's dive in. So thinking at scale, I'm sure we've all seen this or heard this. If you haven't, then you must be quite young in your career. But there's really kind of three main pieces, the three main levers, I guess I would say, that you could pull in order to drive success within an organization. The first is your people, next is your process, and the last is your product. People, process, systems. People, process, product. You probably heard this within your organizations as well. So really, I go back here real quick. Really, I think what you want to do here is just think about these different levers and which ones you should pull at what times. So for example, you might be able to solve a problem through people by hiring or by training, but hiring is expensive. So, is there something that you can do with your existing people to drive process that would allow you to maybe not hire as many people? Same thing with a system. If you've got a really intuitive system, then that intuitive system is going to allow you to not have as much work to be done by individuals, and it is ultimately going to allow you to get to the same result without having a heavier expense. I think the same applies for processes. Sometimes all you need is to set a process that's efficient, and by setting that process that's efficient, your people will follow that and will be able to run at scale. All right, on data process and adaptability, I wanted to share a little example that we've been experiencing here at Domo. So we are in the process of changing our pricing model, and this is a massive undertaking. If you can imagine changing how you price your product and going from, say, a seat-based pricing to a consumption-based pricing, massive amount of effort, a lot of people across the organization are involved. And as we've gone through this process of changing our pricing model, we've spent a lot of time focusing on what is the right way to do this and how can we move as quickly as possible. So it's crazy to think, but we've got over 10 people that are actively involved in these pricing models changes every day. And not only do we have a lot of people, but we also have a ton of measurements that we're measuring ourselves against. As often as we can, we're looking at these measurements and making sure that we're making progress against those. And I think really, as you go into this, just shows when you go into a project like this, thinking about the end result, where you want to get to, how you need to staff for that. And again, to the people, process, systems, you have the ability to drive and pull those levers and drive success in many different ways. All right, key 3, I wanted to talk a little bit about predictive analytics and forecasting. I mean, predictive is everywhere in every conversation. I mean, it's been talked about here at RevTech today, and really it is undoubtedly the future. AI and predictive analytics, large language models, that kind of thing. And so I thought I would take a few minutes just to talk about some things that we're doing at Domo to take advantage of predictive analytics and how we're forecasting and looking into the future, hopefully with the end result of it being helpful for you all as well. So from a predictive analytics and forecasting perspective, it's pretty basic, but this is me looking into a crystal ball. That's creepy, but whatever. So wanted to talk a little bit about data in, data out. And we've heard this before. Again, if you've been in your career for a period of time, quality data in, if you put quality data into things, you'll get quality data out. And so you've got to focus a little bit on the cleanup and the data processing side of things in order to be able to get to a place where the value is truly there and that you can rely on that data. Nothing super crazy here, just that you want to focus on this and make sure that your data that you're putting into your system has been cleansed and that you're making the right decisions using that data. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we're doing this, specifically how we're building custom apps to help ensure that we have great data. So one of the things that we have to do every week in sales and in our customer success organization is to forecast where we think we're going to land for our organization for the year, for the quarter, for the month, so that we can stay in front of that and provide our leadership team with insight as to where we're at, where we're going, and also ensure that we're providing great results to our shareholders as Domo is a publicly traded company. So we forecast every week. Our CSMs, our AEs, they're forecasting every week. And we built a custom solution, a forecasting app within Domo where we capture this. And this is really focused on that quality data in perspective. We've tried to make a very intuitive and simple to use solution where individual contributors can come in and forecast each of their opportunities that they have in the pipeline. Might be an opportunity that sales is working on. Maybe it's an upsell that CSMs and AEs are co-working on, or it might just be a renewal that the CSM is focused on. So every week they're able to come in here, make individual adjustments to their their forecast for specific accounts, and then they're able to make an overall adjustment. And what we found in implementing this simple solution is the quality of data that we get from our CSMs and REs is much greater, and therefore we're able to much more effectively forecast and predict where we will end at the end of the quarter or the end of the year. So again, just a simple solution. Implement a tool that will allow you to get quality data into your system, and then from that, what's awesome is we're able to take all of that data and we're actually able to build predictive models that are frankly better than the individuals at forecasting where we're going to land for the end of the quarter. So we've been able to build these predictive models on this data, and we're hearing both from our individual sales reps and CSMs where they think they're going to land, but then we're also able to make adjustments on their forecasts and their calls based on creating predictive models that then tell us where we think that they'll land. It's pretty cool. We've trained these models over a couple of years of time, and they're incredibly accurate. Within 5% at the very beginning of the quarter, we know within 5% plus or minus where we're going to land from a retention perspective and from a sales perspective. So pretty cool stuff. All right. Also wanted to talk a little bit about AI and ML and what we're doing here. I know we hear a lot about AI, and I'm sure we're all using it a little bit. Maybe you're using it for pictures of redheads in your presentation. I don't know. But one of the ways that we're using AI here at Domo is to synthesize large amounts of information. Specifically, we have a call recording program called Gong. You might have, a number of different kinds of ways that you record your calls. But we have this program called Gong where we record all of our calls, and Gong gives us some high level insights as to those calls, when pricing comes up in conversations, that kind of thing. But it doesn't really provide us with a summary of all the calls. And so when I stepped into this role running CS, I wanted to get involved with as many customers as possible, hear as many calls as possible, but it just frankly became impossible to do and to do at scale. And so what I asked my team to do is, could they use some kind of large language model to be able to provide me with a summary of that call and what happened in that call? And so they leveraged, first a Chat GPT solution. Now they've used other models within Domo, and they're able to provide me with a summary where, without going and listening to a full call recording, I can get a high level idea of what that call has looked like. So if I'm going out to visit a customer, I can just quickly pull up the summaries from the last calls and get insights around that. What's been cool is the team saw this, and my team said, hey, I think we can do this in other areas. And so our support team has created a model that allows them to automatically score the interactions that support people are having with our customers. There's a checklist of items that in each support call, the support employee should be going through. And some of them are basic, others are a little bit more complex. But using AI, we've been able to not require managers to go in, listen to that call, and ensure the checklist was accomplished. But we're actually able just to, through piping through AI, we're able to see and automatically indicate on that checklist what was done and what was not done. So what that's allowed us to do is to go from a single kind of spot check mentality to every single call checklist is applied, and we're able to see how we're doing against that checklist. So again, just one way that we're doing that here at Domo. So how do we unlock growth? My team said that we need to figure out how to make more gingers. I told them this is going to be tough. It's a recessive gene. I have 3 kids. None of them have the curse of red hair. So I don't think that's our answer. But I think our answer is in these 3 keys that we talked about. So first, figuring out how to drive data-driven decisions, figuring out how to get your folks focused on a culture that is data-driven, setting up your organization in a way that you can make data-driven decisions. You've got the right analytics folks that are doing everything that they need. Second key, automation and efficiency. Anything that we can do faster saves us $1, and anytime we can save $1, that's $1 that we can reinvest back into the business or pass on to our shareholders. And last but not least, I'll get it out. We leverage predictive analytics and forecasting. So hopefully this has been helpful for you today. I'm so excited that we got a chance to talk. Again, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Look me up, Mark Mon. Happy to connect and share any insights that I've got from my time in doing this, and would love to hear anything that you all have found in your time in doing this as well.
Thank you, Mark, for taking the time to join us today. I mean, my personal favorite was all the AI versions of you, so your team did good. But I also think you just nicely rounded out the event and kind of reiterated the things that are on the top of everyone's mind. And I think ultimately, if you haven't already started thinking about how to integrate AI to increase productivity and efficiency, and if you're not cleaning up your data, you should really start considering doing those things.
For sure. And like I said, I would love to talk because I think it's so fresh and so new that every time I have a conversation with somebody about AI, I'm finding that there's something new that I'm learning, some trick that somebody might be using or some lesson learned. And I think if we're sharing those lessons learned, we'll be in a better spot altogether.
Yeah, and you can make awesome images.
That's true. Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to make redheads via AI since we're all going away. So.
Well, thank you again, Mark. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thanks, Jenny.